Hi, my name is Dave Measle. I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Peer Support Coalition, and we are really excited to be presenting these videos today. We just continue to grow and continue to do whatever we see is necessary to support the profession of peer services. Which brings us to this video, or these videos. One of the things that we recognize through conversations with other peer specialists and through our own experiences, because most of us who work here and are on the board of directors are peers ourselves. One of the things that we recognized was the need to have some more information out there about what a typical day of a peer specialist looks like. You know, what are the real world things that a peer specialist encounters. The 2-week training is amazing, and as I said, most of us are peers here at the Coalition. We've all been through one of the 2-week trainings, and we all walked out of that training feeling super inspired and super ready to go out and do this work and uplifted, which is awesome. But we wanted to provide some additional information about some of, again, the real world experience of a peer specialist. What does the day-to-day life of a peer specialist look like? What are some of the challenges that peer specialists face while providing this service? Our original vision was to create some in-person classes that people could come to and get information on, and we would create, slideshows and, PowerPoints and things like that. When we actually started to pursue that or discuss it more, it became clear that that wasn't going to be the best, most efficient way to achieve what we wanted to with this project. So then we kind of evolved and moved into creating this series of videos. And so then what we did is we went out and we started talking to other peer professionals, people who are on the ground doing the work face-to-face with peers on a daily basis, so that we could get their perspective on it. We had our own perspectives from our own experiences, but we wanted to gather as much as we could from other peer professionals across the state as well. So we started having these conversations. We sent out surveys, we had focus groups, all around this idea of what would you have liked to have known prior to taking the 2-week course. Knowing what you know now, as a certified peer professional, what's the information that would have been helpful to you before you decided to move in this field, move in this direction? And what we got from these discussions were kind of 6 basic areas that people really felt like they would have liked more information, in making a decision to move into peer work. None of them said that they hoped or wished that they had not moved into this field. Not all were still in the field either. But there were 6 areas that people really wanted more information or would have liked more information. And the areas included things like, what does the day-to-day life of a certified peer specialist look like? What does a day in the life of look like? What does documentation look like? I didn't know anything about documentation before I became a certified peer specialist. I would have liked to have known more. What does the actual certification process look like? How do I become certified? Information on ethics and boundaries. I would have liked to have had more information on that. What does the process through the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation look like? So we took these things and we said, okay, these are the things that we're being told that people wanted more information on. And we developed a set of questions around those topics. And then we went out and we set about finding subject matter experts in Pennsylvania. People who had done the job, who had, been a face-to-face peer for years and had a lot of experience doing this work so that they could share their insights with you. And so we started meeting with them, and what we did is we just set up a camera and sat down and we asked all of them the exact same set of questions, gathering information on these topics that we had been told were things that, people would have liked to have known. And so the following videos is really the result of these interviews, of talking to, as I said, very experienced, very well-spoken, certified peer specialists who had a lot of knowledge and a lot of insight to share. So we hope that these videos are going to be viewed by people who are interested in becoming peer professionals, who maybe want a little more information, for people who maybe aren't interested in becoming peer professionals but want to know more about what are peer professionals, like what do peer professionals do. So we're putting these videos out there as an educational piece to teach people or to inform people on peer services and what they are and what a day-to-day life looks like for an individual who does the work and is on the front lines every day. We have really enjoyed making these videos and meeting with these subject matter experts. They have all been amazing partners to work with on this project. We believe what we have to present to you is some really good information, and we certainly hope that you're able to take away some great, helpful, insightful information that will help you make a decision on whether or not you want to become a peer professional. Or if you're not becoming a peer professional, we hope there's information in these videos that you can take away and walk away and say, now I really get it. I understand what a peer professional is. I understand the work that they do. I understand how important the work that they do is for the community. On behalf of everyone at the Pennsylvania Peer Support Coalition, I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch the videos. Know that we are here, that the coalition exists to support peer professionals and those who support the profession as well. So, if you need us for anything, we are here. Our contact information is in the videos. Feel free to reach out to us. But most of all, thank you for taking the time to watch the videos. And again, we hope that you really get some good information out of them and find them useful. Thank you.
OVR is the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, as you said, OVR. It does serve individuals with physical, medical, and mental disabilities that present a substantial impediment to employment, and that's the key part. These services are provided to individuals to prepare for, secure, retain, advance, or regain employment. We have 21 district offices across the state. 15 of those are the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, or BVRS. And then we have 6 that are the Bureau of Blind and Visual Services, which is BBVS. And our counselors work with thousands of customers every year. So to determine somebody's eligibility for OVR services, it's based on 4 things. The first one being the individual has a physical, medical, or a mental disability. Second, the disability results in a substantial impediment to employment, which we just mentioned. Third, the individual does require vocational rehabilitation services to prepare for, secure, retain, advance, and regain that employment. It also has to be consistent with their unique strengths, their resources, their priorities, concerns, their abilities, their capabilities, their interests, and they also have an informed choice. And the 4th thing is that the individual intends to achieve an employment outcome. Someone can make contact with OVR by calling or writing one of our OVR district offices that's nearest to where they live. I have provided you with that document that you're going to link on the your PA Peer Support Coalition website, so the CPSs will have access to that. So in there it has the OVR offices, the address, their phone numbers, and then the counties that they serve. So when a person is seeking services through OVR, they can complete the pre-application, and that can be done online. And they can do that at the PA Career Link website, which is www.pacareerlink.pa.gov. So prior to COVID, they could also go into one of the district offices and apply in person. At this time, all of our district offices are closed to the public. So the pre-application is available online, or they can contact by calling a district office if they have any questions. And the online application will be assigned to a counselor within 15 days after that pre-application has been completed. So the counselor is going to make initial contact with the customer, either by mail, it could be by email, or it could be even by phone. So it's really important that the person that's applying for services respond to that mail, email, or that phone contact. And if it's by mail, it's probably going to come from the Department of Labor and Industry, Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So that initial appointment with the customer will be scheduled within 30 days after they make that contact. At this point in time, those meetings are going to happen virtually until we can have the in-person meetings again. The counselor is going to complete that initial interview with the customer, and they're going to discuss our OVR services, and the counselor will review their application that they completed online, and they're going to help them complete any missing information that they may have forgotten and we may need. The counselor is going to have the customer sign the statements of rights and responsibilities, which is basically going to put that case into the next status. At that meeting, they're also going to sign releases so that we can initiate the eligibility determination to be able to provide services, and they'll complete any other additional intake documents that they may need to at that meeting. All of these can now be signed electronically, so this all can be done online. If they can't sign them electronically, we can always use snail mail and mail them back and forth.
Okay.
Preferred method is to do it electronically. It's just much faster. Another thing that a CPS should be aware of during this process is that the OVR counselor is going to require us that we are required to obtain documentation that establishes the identity of the customer. So identity verification is going to be part of that process. So an application won't be considered complete until that identity has been verified, and we usually do that through some sort of state-issued ID card. A passport can be used, a military ID, or for our students, their school ID can be used. If a customer doesn't have any of these documents, there are other documents that can be used. This is just a few of the common ones that we can use. They can just talk to their counselor, and a counselor can give them a full list of the appropriate documentation that we can use to verify their identity. And then once they're considered an applicant for services, we have 60 days to determine their eligibility. So the counselor will use the following, they use existing documents usually. So some of those things can be a counselor's observations that are documented in our system. They can use educational records or any documentation from education officials. They can use relevant medical or psychological records, documented reports from the customer or the customer's family, any determinations that are made from other agencies such as Social Security Administration or even the Office of Developmental Programs or any other similar agencies to those. All of that data is obtained, and it must be clearly documented in the customer's case file. So if that existing data does not exist, or doesn't describe their functioning level accurately, we can also, OVR can fund additional assessments for the purpose of eligibility and the order of selection determination. So that eligibility determination has to be made within a reasonable period of time, but it's not to exceed 60 days after the individual has signed an application. There are a couple of exceptions to that 60-day timeline, and one of those can be if there's any exceptional or unforeseen circumstances that are beyond OVR's control, and we're not able to make that eligibility decision, we can do what we call a time extension. And that's, there's a specific form that the counselor will use, and it's signed by the counselor, and the customer is in agreement with the time extension and the amount of time that we need beyond those 60 days. The other delay could be if OVR is exploring the individual's abilities and capabilities to perform work, and we do that by doing a trial work experience, and usually that will take more than 60 days, and at that point we will complete a time extension form for those circumstances also. Another caveat to that could be an applicant has been determined eligible by the Social Security benefits under Title II and Title 16 of the Social Security Act. They are presumed eligible for OVR services, and they're considered an individual that has significant or physical, medical, or mental disabilities, and provide the individual intends to achieve an employment outcome that is consistent with their unique strengths and resources that we had talked about earlier. But not all applicants that do receive Social Security are going to be eligible for OVR services. So if they're not going to choose to pursue competitive integrated employment, they wouldn't be eligible for OVR services. The order of selection, that is when a customer is eligible for vocational rehabilitation services or a program, VR program, and the VR program cannot serve that customer due to our limited resources. So under the federal law, it requires the VR agency, and in this case it would be the PA Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, to define the categories which establish the priority order in which consumers can be served. So that law requires that OVR, we give the highest priority to the customers with most significant disabilities, or you'll hear us call it MSD for most significant disability. It also requires us to serve customers in other categories, in other priorities as funds become available. And that's what the order of selection is. The order of selection, the categories are called priority categories, and we do open those priority categories when resources are available. We did go on a closed order of selection as of July 1st of 2019, and we've been on a quarterly basis reviewing those, and we've been able to pull people off of the wait list, and so we periodically release individuals from that wait list usually on a quarterly basis or more often if we can. So some of those services that we do provide to help the customer overcome or lessen their impediment to their employment, or we can help them directly prepare for their career. So some of the services that will be arranged to meet the individual's needs. Not all of these services are going to apply to every single customer, but these are the services that we do offer. Some of the services one of them would be the vocational counseling, and that's something that every customer will receive. And those are offered to assist the customer in finding better ways to help themselves throughout the rehabilitation program, from the first meeting with their counselor to them starting and maintaining their career. The vocational counseling services are going to help the customer to better understand their potential, rely on their abilities. It's going to help them set realistic vocational goals and change them when they need to and help them develop successful work habits and help them to be satisfied in their career. Something else that we provide is the diagnostic services. That's going to include medical, psychological, and audiological exams and tests used to better understand their disabilities and their needs for specific types of services. We also do vocational evaluations. Those are going to include testing in aptitudes, interest, their general abilities. It could be academic exams, work tolerances, and some hands-on job experiences. We use those to understand their vocational potential. We also have restoration services. Those include many types of medical services and equipment. It can be physical or occupational therapy. It could be involve wheelchairs, automobile hand controls, other types of rehabilitation technology, just to help the customer pursue their career and achieve their independence. We also do provide training services. Those include the education to prepare a customer for their job. It's including but not limited to basic academic services. It could include a vocational or a technical school, colleges. It could also include on-the-job training, independent living skills and personal work adjustment training, which we refer to as PWAT. So it may be necessary for the customer to leave the home during some of these types of trainings if they want or need them. The other thing, one of the other things that we offer is placement services. So in some of our district offices, we have placement counselors. So there's a potential that a customer could be working with 2 different counselors at the same time. When we're getting closer to, once we've established their job and they're ready to be placed into a career, they could be involved with a placement services counselor. And they really start helping them with job seeking programs. Sometimes they have job clubs that go on in the district offices and help them with their job development, increasing the customer's ability to obtain a job. Sometimes the placement service counselor will help give them ideas and practice some job seeking skills with them. The customer will be given advice on finding job leads, filling out applications. They'll work on getting interviews and how to do those interviews. The counselor may also give them some job leads and explain to employers about tax credits that they can receive when they hire these customers. And the more contacts that an employer with an employer a customer makes, the better chances of them starting their career are going to be. The one other thing that we do is support services, and there's a lot that's entailed into support services. And some of those can be room and board or transportation costs during an evaluation period. It can be occupational tools for job licensing and equipment. We also do home modifications. We do vehicle or car modifications. Sometimes we provide personal care assistance for somebody that's just starting a job. And we can help with job site evaluations for any modifications on a job site that may need to be done. And we also do provide some independent living training so that the customer can become more self-sufficient. And we also do services with TTY, signaling devices, hearing aids and things like that, or interpreter services to help the customer communicate if that's also needed. So those are just a few of the services that we provide. So the customer is in charge of the rehabilitation program, and they must be willing to help themselves through this process. It's not completely up to the counselor. The customer does have a lot of work involved in this, so they must be willing to actively participate in working on those vocational goals and working hard to achieve them. It's important that the customer does talk with their counselor about what their needs are. If there's any deadlines with such as applications and stuff, they need to be talking to their counselor about that, letting their counselor know those deadlines, because some of those things can either speed up, slow down, or stop the customer from progressing forward. And the rehabilitation process definitely works better if the customer does keep all of their appointments, and if they can't keep an appointment, contacting their counselor to let them know. And the customer should always ask questions if they don't understand something, and being honest about their needs and their feelings and stuff definitely helps that rehabilitation process along. So somebody that would be a good fit, that's determined with the counselor and the customer. It's going to take multiple meetings. And an appropriate job goal would be developed and agreed upon by the customer and the counselor. And that job goal is going to meet, like we talked about earlier, those unique strengths, their resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, capabilities, interests, and it's going to be an informed choice. This is something that's going to be agreed upon with the customer's individualized employment plan, which is our IPE, and that's going to drive all of the services that the customer is going to receive to obtain that job goal. So a person can come to OVR and have a discussion with their counselor about that job goal of wanting to become a peer support specialist, and they can determine what steps they're going to need to do to obtain that. This is a service that requires the customer to have an approved IPE, so that IPE will be developed with the customer and the counselor. It's not just the counselor's decision, it's both of them. And again, it has to be consistent with those things that we've talked about, with their strengths, the resources, priorities, and it's an informed choice decision. If the job goal did not meet those, then the counselor would work with the customer to determine a job goal that does meet those. A job goal of a peer support specialist would need to be the customer's goal for employment and not for personal growth during that person's recovery process. If it's deemed appropriate, it's going to be on that IPE as their job goal as a peer support specialist. The customer and the counselor are going to look for approved trainings that are available in that customer's area for the customer to participate in. So that customer is going to need to complete that application with the provider that they choose to obtain the peer support training. That part OVR doesn't have anything to do with. It's the provider. That application has to be accepted by the provider, not OVR. But once that application has been submitted and they have been accepted, they really need to notify their counselor as soon as possible. And they need to provide them with that information, because the counselor is going to need to present that case to their training committee back at their local district office, and they're going to need to approve the funding for the training. And once that funding is approved, the counselor has to set up a service authorization to authorize the funds for that agreed upon class that the customer wants to take. The customer is going to receive a copy of that service authorization. It's not a bill, it's just a copy of what the provider is, what's being sent to the provider to authorize for the services, and that will be paid after the customer attends the CPS training. So yes, OVR has an MOU, which is a Memorandum of Understanding, with OMSAS, and that does provide funding for individuals with serious emotional disturbances, or SEMs, or serious mental illness, SMI, and the customers are both OVR and OMSAS eligible, and CPS is one of the several services that have been identified in that MOU that can be funded and pursued under that MOU.